Recently, I started doing some icon videos, and if you're new here, I'm going to put a playlist up top, and if you have any questions about the icon tool line, you might be able to find your answers in one of the videos I've done, because I've did quite a few videos on this icon tool line. And after my first video, I reached out to Harbor Freight to ask them some questions, and they didn't get back to me. Well, they did get back to me. They gave me an email address. I emailed the guy, and he never got back to me. But after that, they did get back to me, and I actually had a conference call with the icon lead team developer and the quality assurance and product development head guy from Harbor Freight, and we had a couple phone calls together and we discussed some things, and they actually did send me out some icon tools because they wanted my opinion. There was no strings attached whatsoever. They just wanted my honest opinion, and they told me I could do a video or not do a video, and I've obviously done quite a few videos, but there's also a few other channels that are going pretty deep on this icon stuff, and one is Justin Dow. If you don't know about him, I'm going to link him down below, and another one is Client Graphics. I'm going to link him down below as well. If I can't answer any of your questions, they most certainly will be able to answer some of your questions. But on them videos, there's been some comments saying that icon is rebranded Tekton, icon is rebranded Carlile. So I went and got Tekton and some Carlile, and we're going to compare them, and we're going to find out tonight, so stick around.
I can't get diamonds so fast, and I'm gonna take you traveling the world. But I can love you, yeah, I'm gonna love you. I'll give you all of what I've got. I'm gonna love you, babe. Cross my heart and hope to die.
Before we start taking a look at any similarities we find in these tools, I'm just going to say that majority of tool companies do not make their own tools. They buy them off of other tool companies that make tools, and they stamp their name on them. Now, why is that important? It may save you some money, because you may buy, say, a snap-on tool that costs $200, when in fact you could buy that same exact tool either straight from the manufacturer or from another company that has the same tool for a lesser price. So that is a big factor when I'm looking at tools. I try to research which tool companies make what, and I actually did do a video about all the different tool companies that make tools and the companies that sell the tools, and I'm going to link that up top as well. You can check that out if you want. But to me, it's really not important if a tool company rebrands a tool or not. All I'm worried about is if that tool is a quality tool, and I'm going to try to find it for the best price. Say, for instance, this Matco Tools Jumpbox I bought off the Matco Tools truck. I paid $299 for this jump box. Now, it is a good jump box. It's a quality jump box. It actually comes with a lot of accessories that you need. An OBD2 memory saver, because as I'm sure the majority of you know, that you need to save the memory in a car if you're going to unhook the battery, and this will do it for you. So if you have any hopes, like I do, of opening up your own garage or auto repair shop, then you definitely need something like this. But the reason I bring this up is because this Matco Tools does not produce this. They don't make this. They buy this. Matter of fact, I'm going to put the exact same box up right now, and you're going to see that I could have saved a lot of money had I went and just bought this off Amazon instead of buying it off Matco Tools. So these tool trucks, yeah, they do produce some of their own tools, but they don't produce all of their own tools. So the fact that something's rebranded to me is not a big deal. All I'm concerned about is where I can find the best quality tool for the best price. So if these tools are rebranded, as a lot of people say, then I'm just going to look for whichever one is the best price, and I'm not so much concerned about brand. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm really impressed with Harbor Freight. I'm really impressed with the lengths they've went through to try to ask questions, to try to find out what they can do better for you and for me. So that's big. As a matter of fact, I wrote Snap-on Tools. I wrote Mac Tools, and I told them that I was going to be checking out some of these icon tools. And I asked them if they had anything they wanted to say about it. And obviously they didn't write me back, but I'm gonna put up what I just said to them and we'll talk about it. As you can see, I told them that I understand that they're a big company and I understand they feel like they don't have to reach out and try to understand what the consumer wants. But I remember a tool brand that not long ago was a quality name tool brand. A tool brand that I believed in, a tool brand that a lot of people believed in. And they thought that they could just rely on their name. They thought that they didn't have to worry about what consumers wanted. They thought that they could just cut corners, save money, and not worry about it. And look what happened to them. That company is Craftsman. And we all know that within the last year, what happened to Craftsman? They went to Stanley Black & Decker. Stanley Black & Decker tried to rebuild Craftsman's name, but Stanley Black & Decker, in my opinion, did not do a really good job. They should have went in the route that Harbor Freights went with this icon brand. They should have just started making Craftsman. This is about to be a professional brand. Not just rebrand some DeWalt impact drivers, some DeWalt drills, and try to sell them to some people to put in their garage. They should have went out and just been like, you know what, this is going to be our Mac Tools second down. And they should have just started selling them on a Mac Tools truck and try to revamp that name. Because I tell you what, a lot of people, including me, would have went back to Craftsman. I like the name Craftsman. The name Craftsman to me means a lot. It's nostalgic to me. I remember back in the day, Bob Vila. I remember buying Craftsman, loving Craftsman. Craftsman meant something. It meant quality. It stood for something. And then Sears just drug Craftsman down. They destroyed the name Craftsman. And as I said in my other videos, I went to Sears and warrantied out a couple tools, and they did me dirty. They handed me a ratchet rebuilt with somebody's name engraved in it that was garbage, just like all their tools they started making. They thought that they could rely on their name and didn't have to worry about quality. And you know, they did get them by for a while, but you cannot fool people for too long. Eventually people's going to be like, man, we're abandoning this name no matter how much we believe in it. Eventually we're just going to let it go, and majority of people did let it go. And I was hoping that Stanley Black & Decker would have kind of revamped Craftsman, would have kind of brought Craftsman back into the professionals' hands, made it stand for something again, made it a quality tool again. But instead, they just came out with some rebranded DeWalts and some Craftsman mechanics tool sets with a new gunmetal chrome. And you know, they seriously dropped the ball, in my opinion. They had a big opportunity and they blew it. And whoever's in Stanley Black & Decker's office can take some notes from the Harbor Freight team, because I'm going to tell you what, these guys, after speaking with them and after seeing the things they've done, I have a big amount of respect for Harbor Freight now and for the guys that I've spoke to. I'm really impressed by them, because as with the Snap-on and the Mac Tools, I said them, they just feel like, oh, this guy's nothing. He's a small YouTube channel. He doesn't matter. He doesn't have any influence. People still gonna buy our tools. It don't matter. And that's a big mistake, in my opinion, because yeah, I am small. Yeah, I may not have any influence, but I'm an average, everyday guy. I represent everybody out there working, just like you represent everybody out there working. There should be nobody too small, nobody too big. But we're gonna look at these tools, and I haven't looked at them. I've glanced at them, but I wanted to find any similarities together, because I don't want to be biased in any way. I don't want to already know anything. So everything I discover about these, we're gonna discover together. So if there is any similarities, then we're both gonna find out together. If they are the same tool, then we're both gonna find out together. But I do have a Carlile Wrench and I do have a Tekton ratchet that we're going to compare to these icon tools. And we're going to find out, hopefully, tonight, if these are in fact the same tools. So let's go over here and look at these things. As you can see, we have 3 ratchets and 2 wrenches. 2 of these ratchets are icon, 1 ratchet is Tekton, 1 of these wrenches is an icon wrench, and the other wrench is a Carlile wrench. First glance, they do look really similar, but we're going to dig a little deeper and see if there is any differences or if they are in fact the same tool. So we'll start with the ratchets. The first thing we notice about these ratchets is the head size. Now we can see the ratchet on the right, the head size is a lot smaller than the other two. And that one is in fact the Tekton. The Tekton ratchet I bought is an 8-inch ratchet. The Icon ratchets that I have is a 9 16 and a 7 5/8 ratchet. So the Tekton 8-inch was the closest I could find to the two I had. The only other one they had was an 18-inch 3/8 ratchet, which is nowhere near these ratchets. So I bought the 12-inch just so we could get a comparison. So I'm going to focus more on comparing the 7 5/8 Icon to the 8-inch Tekton. And we're going to just check these out. We're going to open them up. We're going to look inside. We're going to look at any differences. But the first thing I want to do is I want to get a weight. We're going to use the 7 5/8 Icon. We're going to place this on a scale. And we have a weight of 303 grams. So the Tekton ratchet is actually 3/8 bigger than the Icon ratchet. But as I said, that's the closest one I could get. And we see the weight of these two ratchets. The Tekton does weigh 1 gram more than the Icon, even though it has a 3/8 length advantage. Now I'm going to pull these two ratchets apart and we're going to look for any similarities. Before I pull these plates off, the tool number on this Tekton is SRH01108, and the tool number on the Icon is R2QR. So the ratchet on the right is the Icon, the ratchet on the left is the Tekton. Now the first thing we notice is that this design is very similar. And if you haven't seen my video where I reviewed this Icon ratchet, I'm going to link it up top. I actually did take apart an Icon ratchet. It wasn't this one. This one hasn't been took apart before. And I compared it to the Snap-on, Mac Tools, Cobalt, Pittsburgh Pro ratchets. And we did see a big difference in those ratchets compared to this Icon ratchet. But now that we look at this Tekton ratchet, we can see that they are very similar. But the one thing that does stick out to me right off the bat is the size of the gear of the Icon compared to the size of the gear to the Tekton, and the size of the pawl of the Icon to the size of the Tekton, and the size of the switch from the Icon to the Tekton. We can see that the Icon is a lot bigger, and we should expect that considering we can see the noticeable size difference in the heads of these tools. But the overall design is almost exactly the same. They both have the one-piece pawl, which the switch moves the pawl in either direction, and that pawl engages the teeth of these gears, and it determines the direction that the ratchet will be allowed to turn and which direction the ratchet will stop to allow you to apply force to tighten the fastener. And that is going to be dependent upon the angle which the pawl teeth meet the angle of the gear teeth. And both of these ratchets are a 90-tooth ratchet. But let's pull these gears and this pawl out and take a look at any differences. The gear on the right is the Icon, the gear on the left is the Tekton. And we can see a noticeable size difference. How much size difference? The gear on the Icon has a diameter of 900 thousandths. The gear on the Tekton has a diameter of 850 thousandths. So that's a 50 thousandths difference in the diameter of these gears. And we also notice a big difference in the way the backs of these gears have been made. The Icon has been machined flat, while the Tekton has not been machined flat. I'm not sure what the purpose of this design here is, other than maybe to save some space. So we can see that the Icon gear is a lot beefier than this Tekton gear. And if we look at the thickness, we can see a big difference. How much difference? The Icon gear is 375 thousandths thick. The Tekton gear is 300 thousandths thick. So that's a 75 thousandths thickness difference. That's a pretty significant difference. So there's no question in my mind that this Icon gear is probably of superior quality compared to this Tekton gear. Now we'll look at these pawls. The pawl on the top is the Tekton pawl. The pawl on the bottom is the Icon pawl. Now you can see that the pawl on the Icon is almost double the size of the pawl on the Tekton. So what's that mean? That means that the pawl on the Icon will engage more teeth than this pawl on the Tekton, which will provide a superior hold when you're tightening fasteners, which will provide more teeth that can fail before the ratchet will fail. So the pawls on these, while they look similar, while the design is similar in the gear and the pawl, the gear and the pawl on the Icon are far superior than the pawl on the Tekton. The Icon pawl has 23 teeth while the Tekton has 13 teeth. And we can also look at the difference in thickness of these pawls. The Icon pawl is obviously of higher quality than this Tekton pawl. So far, judging off the gear and the pawl, the Icon ratchet internals are of a better quality than the Tekton internals. And we can also look at the switch. Look at the difference in the switch. The Icon switch is a lot bigger than the Tekton switch. And when we pull these switches out, you can see the difference. Look at the Tekton switch compared to the Icon switch. It is half the size of the Icon switch. And we also notice that the Icon switch does have an O-ring that will help keep dust and debris and liquids out and to help keep the grease in, while the Tekton switch does not have that at all. So there's all the internal parts of these ratchets. Now we're going to look at the wrenches. One of these wrenches is a Carlile wrench. One of these wrenches is an Icon wrench. Can you tell the difference? Other than the part number at this point, I see no difference. We flip this over and we can see the top wrench is an Icon, the bottom wrench is the Carlile, and even the font used to stamp these wrenches is pretty similar. So far these wrenches look like a clone of each other. But let's take a look closer and see if we can find any difference. First, we're going to look at the Carlile wrench. This is a 13mm wrench. And we're going to look at the open end, and we're going to see the teeth inside. And then those teeth are there to help grip a fastener, to help you from rounding off fasteners, to help you get fasteners that may be a little rusted or a little rounded. They're meant to help bite in a little more to help you get that fastener, while other wrenches may round that fastener off. And you can also see the design to help when this wrench is inserted on a fastener, the bolt head will slide in there and help to remove that fastener. But we can look on the inside and we can count 1, 2, 3, 4 teeth. On the top side and the bottom side, we count 1, 2, 3, 4 teeth as well. And we look at the box end, and it does have a 15-degree offset. And we can also see the thickness of this wrench at 200 thousandths. So next we'll look at the Icon wrench. And as we can see, this is a 13 millimeter, the same as the Carlile wrench. And we look at the open end, and it also has the cutout for the fastener. And we lift it up, and we can see the teeth as well, and we count 1, 2, 3, 4 teeth on the top side, and the bottom side we count 1, 2, 3, 4 teeth as well. And we look at the box end, and we can also see the same 15-degree offset. And when we put these wrenches together, we can see that they are identical. They have the exact same amount of teeth, the exact same opening, the exact same font, the exact same 15-degree offset in the back. And the thickness of the icon is 200 thousandths. So now we see the similarities of these tools. Let's go back up here and I'll give you my final thoughts. So what do you guys think? Leave down in the comments before I say anything. Just pause the video, leave down there, and let me know if you think that those ratchets are the same, or if you think those wrenches are the same, or if you think they're both the same. When we look at the ratchets, we can see a lot of similarities. They do look pretty similar. Now the Tekton is kind of a cross between the icon and the snap-on. As far as the handle goes and the design goes, they do look really similar. Obviously the Tekton has the name stamped on the handle, while the icon has it on the head and the snap-on has it on the head. But if we look at the style of the handle, the rings on the handle, they do look pretty similar. But once we open these things up, we see a big difference. A big difference. Now let's talk about price. I paid $22 for that Tekton on Amazon. I'm going to link it below if you're interested. I don't know how good of a ratchet that is. I'm not going to tell you to buy that ratchet, but if you like Tekton, then I'm going to link it below in case you're interested. Because $22 for a ratchet isn't a bad deal. It seems like a pretty decent ratchet, but when we open them up, we can see a big difference. That icon is of superior quality than that Tekton, I guarantee it. The gear's bigger, the paw's bigger, the switch is bigger. The icon has the O-ring on the switch, which we've seen the Tekton does not. The Tekton is obviously made to be a budget ratchet, and it does have its place. Every tool has its place in the hands of the right man. You know, that's my opinion. You don't need to have the most expensive, best tools in every situation. But if I was going to tell somebody, when we look at the price, $22 for the Tekton, $34.99 according to Client Graphics that I got the price from. I don't know the exact price, but $34.99 for that ratchet compared to $22. I'm going to spend the extra $13 and get that icon all day and all night, because it is a superior ratchet. They weigh the same, even though the icon has a 3/8 height disadvantage. They're still the same weight, and we can see why. The internals of these things. That icon gear is a beefy gear. That icon paw is a beefy. The icon paw is a beefy paw. The icon switch is a beefy switch. It has an O-ring, keeps the gunk out, keeps the grease in. Tekton, none of the above. It is a budget ratchet. It might be a pretty decent ratchet. I do have some Tekton tools, and I've used some Tekton tools. For a while, I have a Tekton set of stubby wrenches that I've used for a couple years. Pretty good set of stubbies. And like I said, every tool has its place, and you can get by using budget tools in a lot of situations. I've got by with it many a times, and will get by with it many more times. But if I have the opportunity to buy a quality ratchet such as I believe this icon ratchet is, I honestly believe that that's a good ratchet. I honestly believe that these icon tools are good tools up to this point from what I've seen. Now, I've only seen the sockets, the ratchets, and the wrenches, but from what I've seen to this point, I believe they are quality. Now, I am going to do a review on the wrenches. That's going to be posted either by the end of this weekend or maybe sooner, but I'm going to go ahead and get started on that. So if you haven't subscribed, man, go down and subscribe, because there's going to be a lot more content like this coming up. and more. The sky's the limit. As I said, subscribe below. But with that being said, when it comes to them wrenches, man, I have to say that them Carlile wrenches and them Icon wrenches are the same wrench. They're the same length. They have the same amount of teeth. They have the same offset, even down to the same font on the handle. So I have to say that those are the same wrenches. Does that matter to me? No, not really, because now I'm going to look at the price. I think I figured out that these are the same wrenches. Now I look at the price. I look at this Icon 14-piece set for $99.99. You get sizes 6 through 19. Then we look at the Carlile set. You get the set 9 through 19 for $90. So for $10 more, I get more wrenches, a lot more wrenches. I just bought that single Carlile wrench today. I went to Napa. I'm also going to be posting the Napa quarterly tools deal flyer. If you're interested, stay tuned for that. That's going to be coming up probably soon after this, before the wrench video. But I purchased that Carlile wrench for $11.50 with tax, so about $12, we'll just say. So $12 for that one wrench. So if we look at the difference, you get 3 extra wrenches for $10. So I have to go with the Icon, and obviously, as I said before, I believe that Harbor Freight will have coupons for these wrenches and other tools and toolboxes. I don't know for a fact. I spoke to them about it. They don't, they're not going to say anything, but I believe they will, man. They have coupons for everything else, so I don't see why they wouldn't have coupons for those, considering these are high-priced items that a lot of people's going to want coupons for. And when you start shooting into having people pay $99 for a set of wrenches versus $20 for a set of wrenches, you have to entice them to get there. And I think they will, and the quality is there, in my opinion, from what I've seen. Now, I haven't tested these tools, in real world scenario, and I don't test the tools in a real world scenario for the most part, but I'm going to start doing a little couple tests extra because a couple people said something, they want to see them in action, and I get it, but on the same hand, I could go to Walmart, buy a Hyper Tough set, and go out there in my truck and start turning some wrenches and start loosening some bolts and start dumping them in some oil and some battery acid, and they're probably going to be fine because it's the first time I've used them. So that's why I don't do tests like that, because I don't feel like it shows you much other than, yeah, they can be used one time. I like to look at them, talk about features and things of that nature. As far as real world testing, yeah, they do need to be real world tested, but testing them 1 day or 2 days, it might show you a little bit, but it doesn't show you a lot. What I think of when I think of real world testing is I'm going to come back in 6 months and say, hey, I've been using this Icon ratchet for 6 months. It's a beast. Hey, I've been using this Icon wrench for 6 months. It's garbage. That's what I think about when I think about real world testing. So with that being said, I am going to try to do a little bit more on-hand testing just to try to show you guys a little bit. But that's why I don't do it intentionally. One guy said I, was trying to push the content out or whatever. That's not the case at all. It takes me a long time to do these videos. It wouldn't take me much longer to go out there in my truck and turn some bolts loose. It wouldn't take me much longer at all. I intentionally don't do that because I feel like it doesn't show you what you really need to know. But if you want to see it, I have no problem in doing it. None whatsoever. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and end this. Leave down in the comments what you think. Let me know if you think I'm right about these ratchets. Let me know if you think I'm wrong about these ratchets. Let me know if you think I'm right about the wrenches, wrong about the wrenches. Let me know down in the comments. And also, let me know what you think about this Icon tool line so far. I'm pretty excited. I'm really impressed with the lengths Harbor Freight has gone to. I really am. And I've been a pretty big heckler of Harbor Freight, and they've shown me a lot, man. They really have, and I appreciate them, and I appreciate everything they've done for me. The fact that they sent me these out here, that's pretty big in my opinion, because I would have went out and bought them and reviewed them anyway and been late to the party and got a couple views and whatnot. But they did a lot for me, and I do feel pressure to help them, but I feel more pressure as to help you, because they don't mean as much to me as you mean to me, because I'm not going to lie to any man under any circumstance. I just won't do it. So if you haven't subscribed to my channel, go down and subscribe below because I'm going to be doing a wrench video and a lot more, a whole lot more. Till next time, stay real.